obviously I'm a big Second Amendment gun advocate, but I'm also big on teaching kids gun safety, and at home I've had guns in my house my whole life, and believe on having every American having guns in their home, but also big on teaching kids about guns. Like I said, I've been carrying guns since I was a kid, and my boys have too, and they always understood safety. And I never allowed my boys still make fun of me. I never allowed them to have toy guns that shot something. When kids like stick the toy gun in somebody's face, like bang, 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 like always just got to me.
Yeah.
And so I always wanted something with a projectile, so my kids knew like there's consequences to pulling this trigger, and I taught them that way. And they'd be at their birthday and get somebody buy them a gun, and I'd be like, they look at me and they're like, "Yep, we know where that's going." Well, and so
let's get a little controversial here, make some people angry. In the world where back in when the Second Amendment was written,
right,
hundreds of years ago, we didn't have automatic rifles. We didn't, like assault rifles. We didn't have anything that we have today hardly at all. They didn't have tanks. They didn't have any of that stuff, right? We had little guns. Does the Second Amendment still apply today? And I mean, I'm assuming yes.
Yeah.
How do we justify increasing technology with weapons with the Second Amendment? How do we reconcile those two things?
Yeah, and I think it's a very good question that on both sides should consider those factors. The Second Amendment wasn't written first of all for hunting or providing food. Which
is often people think.
People think, yeah. It was written to protect ourselves, and so it should escalate with the threat, right? Yeah. So if I'm not gonna be able to defend my home with a musket loader, like if somebody's gonna come in my home with a Mac 10, they're gonna be faced with my Smith & Wesson FPC, in my optic on it, and they're gonna be dealt with. So I believe that the threat has increased, and so does our ability to be able to defend ourselves, which isn't a healthy thing for any culture, but that's what it is. And so I think the where America misses it, and especially this administration, this White House, who's just stood up this pretty much what I believe anti-Second Amendment division of the White House called the gun
protection agency, or I don't know.
Yeah, it stood up and they're not targeting an actual problem. They're targeting weapons, and they're targeting law-abiding citizens who are gun owners. They're not targeting the crimes, the criminals, and so that's where the problem really lies. And I think what the backlash to that is more Americans feel the need more so to protect themselves because of that. So you see this what they're trying to prevent creates a demand. I mean, every time President Obama or President Biden has had this knee-jerk reaction to mass shooting and you see gun sales spike and ammo sales spike, and so they're actually doing the opposite of what they think they're trying to accomplish. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but so I believe when the founders wrote this, I don't think they imagined the technology we would have today and the weapon systems we would have today, but they certainly knew that they would increase. These are brilliant people who thought. I mean, they thought ahead of their time. That's why I believe some of the decisions they made were divine and God inspired because they thought way ahead of their time. And but I don't think it was written just for that time. I think it was written for a time like today. And the reason we're able to defend our homes and the reason that we remain a free country isn't just because of our military. It's because we have 340 million Americans, most of which out ratio by the way. I think maybe probably estimate about 500 million guns in the homes of America's, and that's one of the things that keeps America free. People wonder, why do I think that we're not going to see what would happen in Venezuela because the state may come and take it. Like, people really mean that here, and people aren't going to. The government's not going to be able to come and just grab weapons away from people like in some of these other countries. I don't think that's ever going to happen in America, and we have far too many guns. I'm an ambassador. I'm one of two brand ambassadors for. Actually, there's 2 shooters, and then myself and Travis Kennedy are brand ambassadors for Smith & Wesson's firearm. And honestly, the reason why I said yes to Smith & Wesson's firearms when they came up to me is because they're a self-defense company. They believe in traditional American values, and they really stand up for the Second Amendment. And so that was one of the reasons I partnered with them. And I really get out there and try to advocate for people not only being able to defend themselves, safely handle a firearm, be able to protect themselves and their family, not just by purchasing a firearm because we can, as our rights as Americans, but training themselves in the ability to safely, because of what happened to my brother, right? Be able to safely have that firearm in their home. And when the situation arises, know how to defend themselves. and be able to use that firearm. So whatever firearm you purchase, you should be able to be very proficient with that firearm.
So how do we deal with the school shootings? Like, I mean, how do you, in a world where, the guns are not going away. It's a
Sure.
You can argue that all day long, but you can't take away 500 million guns from Americans. It's not going to happen. So knowing that, how do we deal with the school shootings?
Well, I think how many mass shootings do we see in the halls of Congress? We haven't seen any, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why is because the type of security they have in Congress. You're not gonna have a mass shooter walk into Congress and go shoot up. So why do we have all this security for people who are elected public officials but have like no security? The softest, as a military guy, if I'm putting my terrorist hat on, which I've never been a terrorist in America, but I have been in other countries, I'm looking for the softest target.
Yeah.
And the softest target in America is, unfortunately, and it's the truth that everybody needs to hear, is our schools. If I'm a terrorist and I want to terrorize a community, terrorize a nation, and make people feel vulnerable, I'm going to look for the softest target that's going to sting the most in the hearts of the people, and it's going to be just schools. I mean, if you can't feel safe sending your kids to school, you don't feel safe at all, right? And so we had this softest target or gun-free zones. The teachers aren't allowed to carry and protect themselves. They're not hardened facilities. You have private companies trying to come up with every way to make door stops and all this stuff. Why isn't our government doing this? Why isn't the school board having an office for school security? Why is you have one DARE officer that's like 400 pounds overweight and can't, his gun's probably melting in his holster because he never even shot it. And why is that not the priority to protect these kids? And so when somebody is mentally ill or mentally deranged or just straight evil, it doesn't matter, walks into school and kills a bunch of children, why are we looking at guns as the issue?
Yeah.
Man, it goes 20 steps back. Like, first of all, we should be dealing with the mental health. I mean, every time one of these things happen, you're able to identify, like, this person had pattern mental health. People knew it. And nobody did anything about it. Sometimes a lot of times the district attorneys, have dealt with this and didn't get the person the help they needed. But oftentimes, if they would have had just a few security protocols in place, the thing would have never happened. They would have been stopped at the door, or or maybe they would have killed someone, but they wouldn't have killed 20 people.
Yeah.
And the thing is also that I think is to be considered is that evil people are going to do evil things.
Yeah.
And whether they have guns or not, right? I mean, if I couldn't get a gun in a school, well, I could get a vehicle to drive through a school bus stop and take out people. And so sometimes, evil things are going to happen, and it doesn't mean we're going to be able to solve all of them. And that's a harsh thing to say, but it's just true. I mean, we're in an evil world and in a broken world, and there's not always a solution to everything. But certainly disarming good citizens is not the solution.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a great answer.
That's my
It's good, man. I don't disagree with you on that one.